So, in most schools, there seems to be a ghost story involved in the auditorium, in a certain classroom. My high school actually had one. We called her Vera, and she was mostly over in the auditorium. Now, the school legend said that she had come over with a bunch of costumes from Portland Community College when we were doing, I think it was Macbeth. Now, the interesting thing is, she had a spotlight off on one of the wings that she liked to hang out at. Well, my junior year, I was working the light booth for a lot of the plays there that the drama department was putting on. And I know for a fact that that light was unplugged and had no bulb. But that light would still come on, and it would illuminate the stage. I had my first, besides just seeing the light, I had my very first serious encounter with Vera, where I went back out on stage. Rehearsal was over. I went out on the stage because I left my jacket out there in the front seats. So I get out on the stage, and the spotlight is on. The spotlight 46, I believe it was the number. So it's on. It's the only light on in the auditorium. And standing on stage is a dark-haired woman dressed in white. And she's standing there looking out over the seating. She turns. She looks at me. She smiles. The light turns off. There is no woman. So, of course, by this point, I have to go and I have to talk to the teacher. We called her Mom. That's what everybody in the class called her. So I tell her, hey, this is what I saw. And she goes, well, she doesn't show herself to many people. So we fast forward a little bit. It's about a month later. And I'm up in the catwalks and I'm putting in film cells into all the spotlights because we're trying to go for a special look. Now, I hated that job because I have a fear of heights. Well, everybody else left, and I said I was going to be the last one out. I didn't have the keys to the light booth. We had already locked it up, and the person I was working with had already left. So, the only way for me to get down would have been on the stage. So, cross over the catwalks, go down on another area above the stage, and then down a ladder. Mind you, I've got a fear of heights. Well, as I'm walking down the catwalk, they turned off all the lights and locked up. I've got nothing. I am stuck in the catwalks by myself in the dark with a fear of heights. So, what I do is I call out to Vera. Just give me a light. Well, she delivered. And that one light turned on. And I was able to get off the catwalks, get over onto the crawl space, and start shimmying down the ladder. Well, as I'm coming down the ladder, I'm calling out for somebody. I'm yelling and screaming inside the thing because I'm like, okay, I have no keys. I've got one light. I'm stuck up here. Well, the interesting thing is there had been a student still in the classroom. And as she was getting ready to leave, she heard her name. So she opened the door to see what was going on because it had come from the stage. She had not heard me screaming bloody murder. So regardless, I got down off the thing. Again, I conveyed what had happened with everything. Counted my lucky stars, made sure that I was never going to be left alone up in the lighting booth ever again. yeah, and then senior year rolls around. We're done with schooling, and that's about where my interest in the paranormal really started to peak. I mean, grew up with it, ghost stories, legends, myths. It's never been one of the things that I've actually shied away from. So I go to the teacher. I'm like, we've graduated. Me and my buddy here. Is there any chance we can get the auditorium to ourselves for about an hour? And she goes, yeah, sure. You want me to lock you in? Yep, we're not going into catwalks. I just want to go sit in those rows in the dark and see what happens. So, my buddy, my bro, we call him Ace, him and I go in, we get to the very middle of the auditorium and we sit down in the dark. And we start calling out, hey Vera, we're here, what you got for us? We had kind of hoped for a light to turn on or to be some sort of big display. But what we got was a little bit different, and it was still all the more interesting. Now, mind you, this was before we had any gear. This is before we had any instruments, recorders, or anything. So as we're sitting there, and we're asking, can you give us a knock? Can you give us a sound, a sign, a light, something? We hear footsteps. Now, mind you, there's no curtains. All the curtains, all the backdrops have all been put up. They're all taken away. It's just a bare stage. It's end of year. We got nothing going on. It's a bare stage. So, we hear footsteps. And it comes to center stage. Pauses. We're guessing it was given a bow, because it was probably a good 45-second pause, as if somebody was to be giving a bow as, thank you very much. And then the footsteps proceeded to go back towards the woodworking area, towards the wood shop. After a bit, we kind of sat there. Apparently Vera has a seat. That started rocking a little bit. I mean, it was a good hour of just sitting there listening to things walk around. People on the catwalks that weren't really there. It was kind of one of those weird things. My brother actually went to the same high school. And my niece actually goes to the same high school. So now we got to fast forward to my niece. She's sitting there. She's doing a performance. We're in the auditorium. The light bars on either side are totally gone. They've removed them. So Vera does not have a light anymore. And as I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for the band to play. I kind of try to reach out mentally, because I've got a full auditorium, so I can't be shouting. So I kind of reach out mentally. Hey Vera, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm back. Just wanted to say hey. And the weird part about the entire scenario with that one is there was a little girl sitting in front of me, in the row right in front of me. She stood up, turned around, and said, she knows. And then sat back down as if nothing had ever happened. So, my old high school auditorium, that's always been one of those items on my bucket list to go and explore, just because of the fact that I have the gear, I have the knowledge, and I would really like to explore it a little bit more. because it was one of those moments where we seemed to be handpicked by the entity to reveal itself. So hopefully, someday we'll get back there. So next time you come around, I'll tell you a story about a place we call the Zone. Until then, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here. And we'll catch you next time.